Hello YouTube, this is Reverend Evan Sackett. You know, one thing that has terrified me ever since I've been about 13 years old is the military draft. Now, the military draft was ended by members of Nixon's cabinet in 1973. I believe that's the year the last men were drafted. Now, the draft remained prominent throughout World War II, throughout the Korean War, but when Vietnam started to escalate, people were absolutely appalled at the very idea that they were going to be forced to go into the military and go overseas to help a country try to fight for its independence that they had never even heard of. Now, I mean, I can understand drafting in a time of World War, because as much as you may not want to go to war during World War, if you don't, you may not have a home to relax at. You see what I'm saying? People would think, well, I'll just stay back at home while everyone else fights the World War. Well, the thing is, if people aren't willing to get up and go fight that war, you're not going to have a home to stay back at, because it's going to be taken over by whatever fucked up country you're going to war with. But when it comes to a war like Iraq, Vietnam, helping another country with their independence, I mean, that's what kills me about America. It's like our government says, okay, we've solved all our problems, let's go help everybody else. I mean, I just don't understand that. We go bomb countries and then we go spend billions of dollars to rebuild them. I mean, everybody wonders what that is all about. But back to my point. And this is something that absolutely pissed me off. I remember when the Iraqi war started in 2003. Now, mind you, this was a time when George Bush was still very popular. If you dared to say a word bad about George Bush, there was going to be about 10 people that were going to come up to you and tell you to shut the fuck up, or they were going to kick your ass. Everybody was behind George Bush. I think they took a poll, and like 98% of Americans said that we should go into Iraq. Now, this is what made me even more angry. They took another poll of school-aged children, people in high school and college, and asked them if they think that they should reinstate the draft. Get this, like 78% of them said yes. I could not believe it. Here you have a bunch of fucking spoiled-ass kids whose mommy and daddies have taken care of them. The closest they have ever come to war is what they learned about in history class, and there they are sitting there trying to say, well, we should reinstate the draft. I mean, going into the military is one thing. Going into the military and then going into combat is something else. I do not know one person who has ever gone to combat and come back in their right mind. Not one. And that's what's scary about the draft, because if they ever did start it, we would be going to war. Now, people still have to register for the draft, technically. I don't know why, because in this age of computers, anyone who has a social security number can easily be scouted out. But even though it's technically illegal to not register for the draft, there hasn't been a prosecution of someone who didn't register for the draft since 1986. Now, the whole concept of all of this is just the simple fact that, I mean, people are terrified of going into the military, being forced to go into the military when they don't want to. But I think the whole idea is that, I mean, people shouldn't have to in a time like this unless they want to. I mean, it's easy for anyone to say, well, if we had a war, they should have the draft. People should be made to go. But you would be thinking that, well, everyone should be made to go except for me. You're not the one that's going to be out there fighting that war, so you don't need to be saying who the hell needs to be going and who doesn't need to be going. So keep that in mind.